Sure.
And then we can get right. But thank you so much. Robin Putnam and Amy Schramm. Robin's with the Office of, can I make sure I say this? Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation. And Amy's with Better Business Bureau. And they've both been out with us before to present some really important consumer protection information. And we can always use more information. And I'm really grateful that you've taken the time to come up and talk and provide us with some more helpful hints and strategies. So we'll turn right to you.
Thank you.
We do have coffee and whatnot, and we have both Amy and Robin have brought Consumer Guide to Identity Theft, so we'll have that available if anybody has any questions. Yeah. And I'm going to see what I'm being posted for, but I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate that you're taking the time. It's always nice to come north of the city. There's never any traffic, which is wonderful. So I'm from the Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation. We are a state agency under the Baker-Polito administration. We have 5 agencies that are underneath us. We have the Division of Banks, Insurance, Professional Licensure, Telecommunications and Cable, and Standards. On the back of the brochure that I handed out, we have all of our contact information. We do have a helpline, excuse me, that is run Monday through Friday from 9 to 4:30, and you will actually get a human being who will answer the phone.
Oh, yeah.
I know. First or second ring. If it's a really crazy busy day, you please feel free to leave a message. They do get back to the consumers within 24 hours. And so if there's anybody listening to this, the consumer hotline is 617-973-8787. Or if you don't really want to talk to anybody, you can just go to our website, mass.gov/consumer. We have so much information on our website, anything you can possibly imagine. All of our divisions are happy to answer calls or questions if you are, if you need them. You can get to them either through our website or you can call us directly. So 3 of the big programs that we run through our office. One is the Home Improvements Contractor Registration Program. If you're going to be doing work on your own home in Massachusetts and it's over $1,000, that contractor has to be registered through our office. It's a law. Even if they're coming from out of state to do work here, we have contractors from everywhere. Maine, Vermont, Rhode Island, New Hampshire coming in, and they register. It's just a way to keep track of who's doing the business in Massachusetts so you can feel a little bit safer. We also have an arbitration program and a guarantee fund, and all of this information is online. It's a really wonderful way to try to vet who you're going to have come and do work in your home. You can always go online, check a license. Let's just say you're going to a new dentist. Make sure he or she is licensed in Massachusetts. You can do that. We also work a lot with the Better Business Bureau because they will ask us, hey, we have a new contractor, is he registered? How, can we look at your information? So we do a lot of collaboration. We also run the state data breach reporting. So if there's a data breach that happens anywhere in the U.S. and it affects just one consumer in Massachusetts, that business or company needs to actually register through our office and let us know it happened. And we also run the state lemon laws. So if you've ever bought or leased a used car or a brand new car, and there turns out to be some problems, please give us a call. We do have lemon laws that can help keep you guys safer. And as I said, all of this information is online. I try to give a quick, brief overview because there's so much of it. But feel free to give us a call or reach out if you ever have a question, comment, concern. Our consumer specialists handle between 200 and 400 or 500 calls every single week. We get emails that come in, so we do try to find the answers. And we're not going to give you a fake answer. If I don't know the answer, I'll find it. I'll do some research and figure it out, and then get you to the right entity if it's not us. But we do encourage everybody to reach out if there's a problem. And I'll let Amy introduce herself.
Hi there, I am the Community Relations Manager with the Better Business Bureau. Our office is in Marlborough, Massachusetts, but we serve all of Eastern Mass, all of Maine, all of Vermont, and all of Rhode Island. So on any given day, I'm in any one of those areas. I always enjoy being in Massachusetts because that means I get to collaborate with Robin and deliver these really important programs. All BBB programs and services are free to the public. A lot of people are familiar with the name Better Business Bureau because you've heard it, I'm sure. We've been around for the last 106 years at this point. but also because you probably utilized our free services after you've had a problem with a product or a service or a business. Most people know to contact us to file a formal complaint against a business, and then what we do is serve as the middleman between the two parties and contact the business, let them know that there's been a formal complaint filed, and help facilitate the dialogue and hope that there can be some sort of solution or resolution to whatever the issue may be. However, we really want people to know that you can utilize us now as a free precautionary resource tool. So we have a database, for example, of over 5 million businesses. And they range from what you think that they would be, the roofers, the contractors, the plumbers, the auto mechanics, to online stores that we want to know are legitimate, or yoga instructors, or your physical therapist that you want to know is certified and licensed, things like that. So any type of business or industry you can think that you might want to know more about before you choose a particular business, you can contact us. On this handout, we have our website, our email address, and our phone number. Our website, of course, is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at your fingertips, which is what makes it so convenient. You can access those 5 million business profiles right online, or if you're not a computer person, or if you, again, would prefer to speak to a human, you can contact us at the number on the handout. I prefer, what we tell people is to contact between the hours of 9 to 3, Monday through Friday, so you'd be guaranteed to speak to a human, which is nice. And again, they could be questions that you have about a particular business, about a charity organization, or about anything that Robin and I are going to jump right into today in regards to scams. Robin and I joke that we have amazing job security because there's never going to be a shortage of scammers and identity thieves, and it's just about staying up to date on what their tactics are and educating the community and staying educated ourselves. And sometimes that's, for me, just visiting our website and seeing what our Council of Better Business Bureaus has put out there in regards to the newest scams. We do have something called a scam tracker that I want to mention before we jump in, and this is a really great resource tool that you can access via our website. And what it is a database of everyone that has come to our website to report a phone call, an email, a letter, any type of scam that they think that they may have recognized. They are reporting it. So not only can we now go and report our own scams that we're experiencing, or our own experiences, we can see what sort of trends are happening in our community. And Scam Tracker is great because it's national and it's local. So you can search as local as you want. You can search as local as Georgetown. And every piece of information that we take in via our Scam Tracker, we share with the Federal Trade Commission. And so we have their contact information on here as well. So you can contact the Federal Trade Commission if you are experiencing an excess of phone calls or emails and things like that.
I'm getting it from Microsoft saying that my computer's been invaded and getting hacked from foreign and
it's one of the biggest scams.
Oh my God, they won't leave me alone. They're constantly calling me.
Yeah, we start with phone scams.
They told me yesterday if I didn't accept their call, they were going to disconnect me from Google, and I said, go right ahead.
And did it end up happening?
Because that is driving me crazy.
Sure.
Google.
And it didn't end up happening, right? They didn't end up disconnecting you. And, yeah, one of the only things we can do, I mean, I guess it would be one of the best things, but one of the only things that we can do if we're answering the phone and hearing calls like that, if you have caller ID, although we'll get into why caller ID, isn't necessarily super reliable nowadays, report the phone number to the Federal Trade Commission. Report whether or not it's a male, report whether or not it's a male or female voice. Report whether or not, they're saying that they're calling from Microsoft or Google or whoever it is that they say that they're calling on behalf of. Report that information. And believe me, they want to hear from us. I was part of a conference not long ago, a few weeks ago, and the head of the FTC was there, their fraud division, and it was really astounding. We had the Attorney General's office there and the Federal Trade Commission, and he said to everyone in the room, we had a lot of media, a lot of community stakeholders, and he said, tell everyone to report everything to their fraud division. They want the phone numbers right on the handout in the top of the right-hand blue column, right under resources, Federal Trade Commission, FTC. They said that they want to hear, and we know, and we tell people, But it's nice. It was nice for me because we tell people all the time, report it. And sometimes, you think, well, what is that going to do? Or do they want to really hear from me? And they said
They do, yeah.
every single person, we want everyone to report as much as they can, because there's the potential that something could be done about it, and they can, you know, take the authority to track these people down, but they can't do it without information, and that information comes from us, so they really rely on us. But that would be a perfect example of what you could report.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just, excuse me, just jump into the phone scams because they are the most irritating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get them all the time.
I do
Don't,
too.
I think unfortunately, the best thing is to just simply not answer your phone.
Isn't that
But
kind
they
of,
call between 12 and 12:30 and 5 and 5:30. But some of our caller ID says scam and
Great, then don't answer it.
oh, yeah.
oh yeah,
Yes,
But I recognize that.
don't answer it.
the
The thing
problem
is,
is now they're getting into phone numbers that we do recognize.
yes,
yeah.
it's called caller spoofing.
Yeah.
And they will scramble the number so it makes it look like your neighbor's calling, the local police department's calling.
352.
Yeah, if it's not, if it doesn't say like your neighbor, or it does say the local police department, or just the area code, but nothing else, just ignore it.
Yeah.
That's what
Just
we're
ignore
doing
it.
now.
Unless your son or daughter works for the police department and they may be calling you
Yeah,
from
yeah.
the police department, then answer the phone. But I would just be very wary because we can't really rely on the caller ID because of this.
Sometimes you're waiting for a call back and you know you're not gonna get the number actually gonna show up on your call ID, so it's an important call for you.
Yeah, let it go to voicemail.
Yes.
They'll leave you a message.
Yeah.
My favorite scam is the IRS, and I'm gonna be arrested any minute, or $10,000.
Yeah.
There's
And
warrants out for you.
so, how I end that one is that my husband actually works for the IRS. So I say, oh, really, then let me have your supervisor, because my husband's an auditor.
Bang.
Yeah.
I get it too.
Unbelievable.
I get it on my work phone, and I work for the state, and it probably pops up Robin Putnam, Office of Consumer Affairs,
Right.
and they told me that they left a message, which is even dumber, but they left a message saying they were sending the National Guard out.
Oh, National.
I said, wonderful, I work in downtown, right by the governor's office, send them on in. But it's just, if you don't recognize the number, just simply don't pick up.
Yeah.
It is probably the one thing that will try to help cut it down. You can go to Nomo Robo for landlines for free. I think it's $2 per month for cell phones. There are different apps that you can download to your smartphone. Some are free and some are not. You have to do some review, searching at what the reviews say. But there are things that can help. But I think the number one thing is just don't answer the phone. I mean, because really, is the chief of police calling you?
Right.
Unless you know him specifically and he was coming for dinner, I would just say ignore it. It's frustrating. And I think also, if they are calling your home and you do get a scam or a real person, they can be pretty obnoxious. They can be threatening, rude, swear at you, you name it. Tell you that the police are coming, or the National Guard, in my experience. It's best not to egg them on. I've met a few people from time to time who think it's kind of fun. Let's scam the scammer, keep them on the phone, give them crazy answers to questions. If they're calling your home phone number, yeah, he's laughing. If they're calling your home phone number, they can do a reverse search and find out where you live.
Exactly.
So maybe if that person is 500 miles away, you don't know who he knows here, he or she. It's just best not to tempt fate. Just simply, great, hang up. And that's it.
Even the town, I had phone calls I didn't pick up, and it was town hall telling me that the water main's been shut down, or but it doesn't say town hall. It doesn't say 352. And,
Yeah.
No, because that's coming through as one of our code red calls.
but
Or
I
our Georgetown Connect calls.
Right.
Yeah.
but I didn't recognize it till I pick it up after.
Sometimes I do feel foolish. They called me up to give me an offer for a free quote. A free coat? Yes, I'd love a free coat. And finally they hang up on me.
What happens is, even though we're just answering and we're not divulging what they want us to divulge. We're not giving them
Yeah,
our
but
social security number.
They know they've got a good number.
They know they have
Yes.
That's
someone.
the first problem.
They
They're
know
gonna
they
keep
have someone
them.
who's
They-
going
yeah,
to
yeah.
answer the phone,
Yeah.
and we have to recognize that we're not targeted specifically to begin with. On Monday, one particular scammer is going to call everyone on their list, 1,000 people, and they're going to offer them a better interest rate on their credit card.
Yeah.
And on Tuesday, they're going to call the same people, but they're going to start with the people that answered the phone the day before
Yeah.
and say that they're the IRS. And the next day, they'll try again, and every day they'll just try something new. And the more we answer, the more they say, okay, well, today, they told me that they don't use credit cards, so they wouldn't, the credit card one's not going to work. Let me try and pretend that I'm Medicare tomorrow. Let me see, because everyone over 65 has a Medicare card. So they're smart. We use that term loosely, but they're smart. And they'll keep trying every day. They'll try something new. And the less we answer, we have to believe that eventually, could take months, but eventually they're going to give up. Even if we just answer and hang up the phone, it's still alerting them that there's someone there.
A live
Yeah.
number there, so.
Yeah.
Now, what about when you just let it go to voicemail? Does that clue them that there is a good number, or?
It shouldn't. Not as much as answering the phone and saying
Yeah.
hello or just answering and hanging up or answering and pressing a number. Sometimes it's an automated machine too when we answer and they say press 9 to be taken off of our list, and we get really excited and think, yeah, I don't want to be on your list. And we press the number. Don't press the number, just hang up. It's just another way to alert the caller. And most of these calls, this is what's so difficult about the scams, is that most of the calls aren't coming from within the US, so there's no way for us to stop them and track them down. Well, not no way, but it's near impossible because they're coming from China and Russia and Dubai and Toronto and Jamaica, and the scammers are smart. They know that if our phone rings and we look at our caller ID and we see Jamaica, we're not answering the phone. If we look at our caller ID and we see whatever our area code is and we answer, we're more likely to answer because it's local, even if we don't recognize the number 100%. And that's why they spoof our caller ID, because they know that we're curious, and it's more believable than having a call come in from Russia and us say, well, that's not
So the
legitimate.
answer is just ignore the phone and
Ignore
then
the
pick
phone.
up and check your voicemail and make sure it
Exactly.
wasn't somebody that really needed to
Exactly.
get in touch with you.
Yeah.
And then if they are dumb and the scammer still leaves a message, do report it. I got
Yes.
one yesterday and I was like,
Oh, sweet.
I reported the FTC and to the scam tracker. It was junk. I knew it was junk. It's just, you have to, the more times we report it, it's another piece of the puzzle to help them figure out where these people are. It can take years to find one.
So if you get one on voicemail and you hear it and it says, we're gonna lower your credit card interest, you should report that or just,
You should. It's a scam. I would
Sweet.
absolutely.
I mean, I don't answer it.
Yeah.
But it's on, they do send it to the voicemail,
Yes.
Yeah.
And usually they haven't waited till the voicemail picks up, so they're halfway through their
Yeah.
spiel before it.
I know.
Yeah.
This is why it's really important to report even the calls that are coming in from people saying, that they're from an insurance agency or an electric company, because the scams nowadays are not coming from people that are trying to sell us ridiculous notions that we won free cruises. They're calling and they're using what's known as an imposter scam. It's the #1 scam right now. And they're impersonating legitimate businesses like electric companies or phone providers.
Yeah.
And they're
Or our
making it
police
sound
chief.
as realistic
Yeah.
as possible. Yes, exactly. Or charity organizations. We have a big hurricane that's about to hit North Carolina and Virginia.
Be very careful.
And
with
you
that.
know we're going to start receiving calls from real charities asking for relief funds or donations, let alone the scammers piggybacking off of that. So all of those things we have to keep in mind, that they're more likely to call us and say that they're a representative from a charity soliciting donations than they are to call us and say, you just won the Irish lottery. Which one are we more likely to believe and listen to and engage in? And it's, just one of those things that's our reality nowadays, these imposter scams. So reporting everything. If it turns out to be an actual electric company that was calling you, what are the chances? I would say maybe 1 out of 10 chances it would probably be that it might be them. But reporting it, the more we report, the better off we'll be, for sure.
I'll be reporting every day.
I know.
Yeah, and luckily it only takes 2 or 3 minutes. I mean,
Yeah.
I just did one yesterday and it just took me 5 minutes. So it's not too much of a big deal. But it's just the more we do it, the better off. I was going to bring up a scam that our office just received yesterday. A gentleman, a 76-year-old U.S. vet, he didn't tell me which part of the armed forces, but he received this sweepstakes lottery. You won $550,000, and then the company sent him a check certified check, wasn't quite certified, for $7,800. And he knew it sounded kind of fishy because the check was from Florida. Then the check Data Logistics was in Florida, but the bank was in Michigan, and the letter was from Vermont. So he was just really irritated and frustrated and sent us a letter and, you need to report this, and I actually did. I actually put it on the scam tracker. I think I emailed you this. It's a really good example of how obnoxiously the check looked beautiful. I did.
You did do MCOA, and that came out to the
Yep.
network.
Good. So I did it. I sent it to a lot of different agencies, MCOA, AARP, you name it. Just because if it's in Haverhill, this came to a consumer in Haverhill, which is not far from here. So if he's getting hit, you may see this in your mailbox. Just throw it out. Put it in your recycling bin. But it's just important when we do hear about something.
After we report it.
Report it, yes, absolutely. But I reported it to the Secret Service.
So
'cause
what did
it's-
they want him to do?
I didn't read through the whole thing because it is just junk. They will basically cash the check that we sent you, and because then we'll send you the rest of the $500,000. So that's the check is going to bounce. It's just.
Right.
It's awful, and it's a counterfeit check, so I did send it to the Secret Service office in Boston. It's just important that these things are out there. You're going to get them in your mail, you're going to get them in your
What would they
voicemail.
get out of it?
They would get access to his bank account,
Exactly. And it would throw off their
his checking account. Because once he tries to deposit this, the check, now they have access to, here's his account and routing number. So it's just, if you get this in the mail, report it and throw it out. It's
Shouldn't
really
you
important.
shred it?
There was no personal information on this for him, besides his name and address. So when I emailed this information out, I took out all of his name and address and just left Haverhill so that people knew where it was coming from or being sent to. Whenever I see anything like this, and I do email things out and scan them, I take out everything, any personal information, phone numbers if something is too pinpointed. It's just important to keep the lines of communication open because you just never know what you're going to get in the mail. It's awful.
And if you did receive one of these personally and it did have your name and address, I would shred it.
Yes.
I would shred. We would shred everything. We recommend shredding anything and everything that has even just your name on it. Name, address, catalogs, magazines. You don't have to shred the whole catalog, but maybe take out the insert, take out the label, shred those, and then recycle the rest. But credit card offers that come through the mail, anything,
The catalog that has an order form in the middle?
take
Yes.
that order form out. Yeah.
So if you order enough things through one specific company,
LLB.
LL Bean. My mom loves LL Bean. She gets a catalog a week. But
Right.
But the thing is, above her name and address is an account number. So I told my mom, I said, just cut that out and shred that. You don't have to shred the whole
Right, yeah,
magazine.
yeah.
But the insert too, which has, you can just fill it out and send it in. Sometimes it has your name, address, and an account number.
Don't you think bringing the stuff to the transfer station is,
No.
No.
People steal trash. That's the problem. People
Right.
they want a dumpster dive because they can find information. Because if they find your LL Bean, I'm just using LL Bean
Right,
as an
yeah,
example.
yeah.
It is not a fraudulent company.
Right.
We just, if I get that information and I get someone new who's working at the call center and I say, hi, yeah, I'm Sarah Smith. I live in Haverhill, Massachusetts. Here's my address and my account number. I'd like to order da-da-da-da-da. Well, LL Bean sells everything. You can spend thousands of dollars of camping equipment and all kinds of stuff and have it sent not to your house but somewhere else. And then I
Kentucky,
can
my daughter, all the
yeah,
time, yeah.
But I can say I'm buying all these wonderful camping gear for my son. Could you send it to his house instead of mine? Wonderful. Now it's not going to your house. It's fraudulent. It's going to some scammer, and they're going to put all that stuff online and sell it. So they're making money off of the things that they've stolen, basically.
see, even with my number of my catalog, they will have my account number at LLB.
Some, not all catalogs have your account number. I would just look at it, but just cut it out. Just cut it out and shred it or black it out. You can buy redacting markers online. They're like $5 or $6. You just never know who's going to get your information. You just don't want that floating around.
And it's because it's an option too. I think so often we feel super helpless in our new reality of all these scams and with all these fraudsters, but there's so much that's within our control. I know for a fact that no one will ever be able to commit fraud or identity theft with my information based on what they find in my trash. It's one little thing that I can do. It's one place I feel safest, you know, in regards to identity theft. If I can just shred everything that goes in the trash, one less thing for me to think about. If my phone rings and I just let my answering machine pick it up, one less thing I have to think about. We feel like there's so much that isn't within our control, but, you know, although we can't control how often our phone will ring, we can control whether or not we answer it. Although we can't control who's going to go through our trash, we can control what they'll find. When we sort of realize those little things, we start to feel a little bit more empowered, and I think it takes the load off of thinking, oh, what a hassle it is to shred, or what a hassle it is to have to retrieve my voicemails and things like that, as opposed to just answering. I think our day-to-day starts to get a little bit even more easy. It starts to get easier than it is now, dealing with, you know, rolling our eyes at the phone ringing, because we all get the calls and we all have to shred, and it's just little tiny things that we can do to better protect ourselves. And the scammers get away with what they get away with because they don't think we're going to take the time to do those things. There's a reason they dumpster dive. They know that a lot of people aren't educating themselves in settings like this to know not to throw certain things in the trash, and that's why they're looking, and they're able to make a living just off of going through trash. It's unbelievable.
Where do they do that? I mean,
Could
where
be
do they
anywhere.
go to the trash? They go to the transfer station?
So it depends. They can go to the transfer station. I think it'd be a little more challenging to get into the
Yes,
transfer
they
station.
get- Yeah,
But there have
Nella
been-
wouldn't let them dumpster dive, I
There
don't
are,
think.
there are
They won't let them.
employees that will do that. There are people who will go through the neighborhoods. Obviously, if you don't have, do you have curbside pickup?
Yes.
Well, let's just say
Today.
you put your trash out at midnight last night, so because your pickup is at 6 a.m. Well, they'll go at 5 a.m. and go through all the neighborhoods and pick up all the trash. It's gross, and I wouldn't want to go through someone's trash, but people do, because they know if they find that one prescription medication bottle that you threw out, that you didn't black out your information, now they might be able to get a refill on your whatever medications you were using, and then all of a sudden you can't refill it yourself. Or maybe they get a hold of the rest of your medical information. You just never know. That's why I always say just black it out. Black it out if you're going to throw it out. But you just never know. I know it seems weird, but people do it. I mean, it's like Christmas time. Christmas or the holidays, people have all their gifts sent to their home. And then they sit on the curb or on their doorstep until you get home at 4 or 5 o'clock, and they wonder why my package didn't arrive. Well, it arrived. Someone stole it. So you just have to be very wary of what you're leaving out for people, whether it's things getting sent to your house or trying to get rid of things. Because people love to do that. They'll follow the UPS truck during the holidays. Well, look at
Yeah,
that. There's
you see
another
how it
drop
is.
off.
Oh, you
There's
see
another
them on
drop off.
film.
And then our office gets 85,000 calls going, what's going on with the Amazon drop off, or what's going on with UPS, or we're getting all these things are happening. So we always we have to put a blog post out right before the holidays. Please do make sure when you're having things sent, make sure they're sign receipt, so you can't just drop a package off.
The UPS brings it to the back door. Federal Express throws it at the front door. And I live in the main drag.
Right.
I wonder, did you have to request that they would?
No,
put it in
UPS
the-
just always comes to the back door,
Brought
but
it
UPS
to the
does
back door.
that, and then they record where they've actually left
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
So if you call to track it, they'll tell you, oh, we left it at the back door by the stairs.
That's really
Or
interesting.
like I have a garage in the back that's
Yeah.
open.
That's great. They
They'll
want to
say-
cover all
That's
bases.
fantastic. Yeah.
but I've picked up stuff from my neighbor, and they know us, and we'll
You have
sign
to
and
sign.
Yeah.
and bring it in because it's.
Mail fraud is so big though.
Yeah.
Even literally if you have a mailbox that's at the end of your driveway and you pay your bills and you put that red flag up for the
yeah.
mailman to come get it, the
Red
literal red flag. Come on, there's something important in here.
Oh,
It's
wow.
really dangerous. You pay your credit card bill, you have a check that now has your account number, your name, your address, your signature, and you're paying a particular credit card bill. Now they have your credit card account and your name and your address confirmation. Someone's gonna go in and take that right out. And look, what are the chances it'll happen? Could be slim, but we don't want to give them any chances. So we recommend just taking a little extra time out of your week and go right to the post office. A little extra thing we can do rather than put it in the box.
Yes.
What about the do not call registry?
It always comes
I know
up.
I've registered
Sure,
my
sure.
number, but
Yeah. So
more than
unfortunately,
once.
that actually fall under our office, and it's probably the number one thing when you mention it, everybody rolls their eyes and groans. It does work for the legitimate companies.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
It can't do anything. It can't do anything for the scammers because 9 times out of 10, these scammers they're impersonating LL Bean or Sears. They are coming, and they're not even coming from within the U.S. So if it's a legitimate, if LL Bean won't leave you alone, then yes, you can report them. Unless you've already done business with that company, then they can call you. Charities and what else?
Oh, charity,
Charities
nonprofit, and
political.
political are not required to adhere to
Can
the
you
nonprofit
find
list.
out
So
which
the political
charity
one, that's what's coming
gives
in now. political
money
calls.
to the person that's supposed to be giving money to, or the administration? Is there any way that?
Oh, to find out like where the money goes to your
Yeah, what
donations.
percentage
To
is
charities?
administration
Is that
costs and
for
what
Charity
admin?
Navigator?
Charity, well, you can visit our Wise Giving Alliance. We have a link on here, give.org. And we've partnered with charitynavigator.org in the past, and there's a link on our give.org website to Charity Navigator, and it has a list of every charity organization, alphabetical order, and it will tell you how much the CEO makes, how much of every dollar goes to which part of each charity. But I think we'll be surprised at some of the
findings.
distributions for sure. And just know too that if you receive phone calls from the local police department or the fire department, it could be legitimate. It will never be the police or fire department directly. It will always be a third-party administrative company that they've hired.
Yeah.
But more often than not, those organizations, those outside companies make a large percentage. Sometimes it's 80% of what you donate. So anytime you receive a call from a charity or the police department or the fire department, without exchanging your own information, I would hear who it is, hang up, find the appropriate number for that charity or a police department, the non-emergency number, call them back and say, how can I'd like to make a donation to you. How can I make sure that 100% of the proceeds go actually to you? And they'll probably say, come on down and write us a check and deliver it in person. But you can't be sure. When it comes to the calls in particular, whether we're talking about scammers impersonating businesses or charities, 100% of the calls that we engage in nowadays have to be initiated by us. We can answer we recommend not answering the phone, but if we do answer, we can hear who it is, and without exchanging any of our own information, hang up on that individual, find the appropriate number for that particular business, organization, charity, whatever it might be, call them back and start engaging in a dialogue, and you can exchange information once you know for a fact that you're speaking to a real representative from a real business or a real charity. But there's absolutely no way of knowing unless we're the ones that initiated that call. We just have to be the ones to initiate 100% of the calls, unless maybe it's, a sibling of yours or something, a relative, and even then I would still hang up and call them back, because I'm paranoid at this point.
Well, we are too, but I think I figured out what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna disconnect the ringers on the telephones and we'll answer the voicemail 3 times a day.
It's not a bad idea.
Yep.
Well, I take the
It's
phone
not
off the
bad.
hook if I have, an expensive meal I'm cooking.
Good for you.
Yeah.
If I pay $16 for scallops, the phone comes off the hook. That's what I do.
I do too.
So I sit down and eat a good meal and then I put the phone back, if I remember.
I think sometimes this sounds sort of overly weird, but I will text someone prior to a phone call, because sometimes you just never know how my phone number is gonna pop up on their screen. I'm like, hey, I'm calling you in a few minutes, or hey, I'm gonna be sending you an email, and it is for me, and it does have an attachment, and you're perfectly fine to open it up.
You can't do that with the rotary dial wall phone.
I know,
No.
wall phones are a little challenging, you are correct.
It'll be a long text.
But I think going into what Amy had mentioned, kind of not answering things, if you are online and do email, be very, very wary of clicking on links that come in through an email from a friend.
Well, if I get an email from a friend with just a link,
delete.
If the friend says, hey, I just checked this out, this looks pretty good, I might click on it, but I still am leery.
If you get an email from a friend that says, hey, I just looked into this, it seems cool, I wouldn't click on it at all. I would call that friend immediately, say, just want to make sure, did you really send this? Because what if that person, your friend, has never changed their password in 5 years?
Sure.
6 years. And now they got hacked.
Yeah.
And someone sent an email through their entire address book saying, I just tried this thing, you might think it's cool, click on it. And
How
you
long ago
just-
did Paul die? 4 years?
Yeah.
Because I still get emails from my dead cousin.
Oh,
Oh my lord.
Yeah,
Someone hacked in.
someone hacked
Yeah,
in.
yeah, obviously, well, it's a, there's a little button that says delete, and I don't even bother with that, I just delete it, I know it's not him, but,
Right.
I mean,
Sure. I mean, the phone scams are irritating. They're totally irritating, but the email scams, the phishing scams are dangerous. They want to put malware on your computer. They want you to, hey, could you just update and verify your social security number for us? And people fall for it because
Yeah.
it looks
Oh, yeah.
like it's coming from their bank. Well, if you've been with your bank for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, they don't need to update and verify your social security number. They've had it for 20 years. It's not going to change. But you'd be surprised at how many people still click on it. Oh, they need to verify something? Call your bank directly. Pull out your ATM card and call the 800 number that's associated with your bank. And just say, hey, did you send me this email? Do you need to update and verify something? That way you know you're in control of the situation. You've called them, as opposed to this email looks a little odd. If you hover your mouse over the return address, email address, the whole address will pop up. So, and a lot of times if it's a scam, the company name might be italicized or misspelled, or it might say at 876.gmail.uk. Well, if you are a Bank of America client, you know that they're not going to use a server in the United Kingdom.
Right.
They're probably not even going to be using Gmail.
Are you sure of that?
I'm pretty sure about that because all the emails that I get from my own bank. But those are the things that little red flags that you can see, like, oh, this is not my bank. They don't need to verify and update some information. But in that case, do report it as well to your bank. Forward that email to their fraud department because they want to see those things coming through as well. I know, lots of things to do, but the more we do these things, it is going to make it easier to try to catch these people.
Michael's gotta get a shredder.
Any
Go get a shredder.
questions?
Yeah. Does anybody have questions?
Do you have a question?
Yeah, what'd you say about debit and credit cards?
Oh, credit cards versus debit cards. If you're gonna get scammed, it's not an if, it's a when. I talk about fraud between 30 and 40 times a month, and I just was involved in a data breach. It's not if, it's when. And the data breach wasn't even here in the United States. So you never know. If you're gonna be you should always use your credit card. Stop using your debit card. Because if you're going to get frauded,
I don't use my debit card. I
I know
never.
people just go, oh, or they give me this weird look. If you're going to get frauded, it's better off if they're going to fraud your credit, because you can, at the end of the month, and look at your statement and go, I don't recognize any of the top 10 transactions. You can then call your credit card company and dispute them, and it might take a little bit of time to deal with it and to prove it's not you frauding yourself, because people do that. But if they frauded your debit card, they can drain your account
Before you know it.
before you know it. Some people they do put restraints, so that you can only take $200 out per day, fine. But if you're not paying attention to that, and they're taking $170 a day out, and you're not noticing that till the end of the month, wow, that's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
There are,
What about keeping your own balance in the debit low?
as to what?
Like not keeping much in your checking
Yeah.
account,
Oh,
so
I
they
see.
In
can't
other
take
words,
anything
you
out.
know, I'm gonna order something out of England,
Oh, sure.
and it's gonna cost $400.
Mm-hmm.
So I put 500 in the debit card. Is that any,
If you're gonna order something overseas, I would still use a credit card.
okay, well, that's.
You don't
because-
use a debit card.
Huh? No, I don't use it, but I've been thinking for
What
my
if?
hobby orders,
Yeah.
Sure.
that get a debit card
Or
and then limit
PayPal it,
how
yeah.
much is in there, but you say the credit
It's
card.
safer
Yeah.
to do that
Yes.
than to like have all your cash in your
No, I
checking
would,
and
I
use
would
it.
have a debit card that I would put
But
X
credit
number of
is still
dollars in,
safer.
that's all they can drain.
Yeah.
Not
I
tied
don't-
to my checkbook
Yeah,
or something.
I don't have a problem with
Yeah.
that. Just monitor your accounts. Everybody should be monitoring. You don't have to do online
thorough.
shopping or online checking.
No, I don't like that.
You don't like to
'Cause
monitor your
every time
accounts?
I buy something for the hobby, she comes down to the shop and says, "Did you buy this?"
Well, no, I mean, one time
Well, I
I
can't
had
help with that.
something, I saw the amount, it was $164, but I didn't recognize what it was.
Yeah.
And then so I called and it was the chainsaw, but it didn't say Dunn's Chainsaw People, it had a strange name, but,
Yep.
okay, it's legitimate. all right.
That's
I mean,
fantastic. I do that all the time, because sometimes, you never know who they're using, the credit card company. It might not show up as Dunn's whatever, it might come up something else. Gas stations do that as well, so if I don't recognize something, I'll call them right up.
She's super good at checking the account
Good.
every month. Goes right down the list and
It's an easy, quick
What did you
read.
buy?
Yeah, what did you buy?
Did you have a question?
Yeah, no, not a question. You have to be careful even if you're working and order something over the phone. I got my credit card statement and I found 3 charges that I didn't order.
Mm.
And it came from somebody in my office that went and used my credit card number because they were pissed off at me.
Sure.
And they wanted me to pay. And
Wow.
thank God I ordered it, she did it through my credit card, and they tracked it through the IP address,
Mhm.
which showed up at work, and I heard the guys coming downstairs talking about it. So I knew who did it, you know?
Yeah.
But-
So, yeah,
But they took it off of my account and
Great.
everything, but you can't even trust your fellow workers.
I agree.
It's, you know, it's-
Yeah.
You
it's-
never know.
You just never know.
well, that's why
You never know.
if you monitor it, your account at the end of the month, look through it, fine. If everything looks great, no problem. But if you notice, you know that you always go to CVS. That's just where you go, because there's nothing else here. But you notice Brooks Pharmacy one month, whoa, what's that $2 charge? Who's picked up your credit card?
Well, isn't that how it starts anyways? They try,
Well,
they
test
take
run.
$2.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I
Because
thought.
think of how easy it is to pick up your information. You just need a smartphone that has a camera. I see people taking selfies all the time. But what if they're doing this and taking a selfie and they're trying to get my credit card information because I'm put my card down to pay for something? And it happened to my mom at a department store. The kid behind the counter late at night took a picture of her
Well,
credit card.
Yeah.
I had
Back
my
and front.
daughter take a cell phone picture up at the Manchester airport and email it to me. There was something I wanted to check
Sure.
out. And the resolution of that cell phone camera was better than with my Nikon. I could go
Yeah.
into that picture
It's
so far,
astounding.
it blew my mind.
You're really
Yeah.
good.
It's astounding.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
if
it, you don't know what
if I'm-
someone's doing
If your
with their
credit
phone.
card's there and I take a picture with the
Yeah.
cell phone, I'm gonna be able to see it.
And it's that easy. It's
You can
handing your card to the
increase it, too.
cashier at the grocery store and
Yeah.
someone behind you just goes click, click, click. And in a half a second, they can snap like 100 pictures too. Like that's
Yeah,
with the new technology. And really important to be diligent or vigilant when we're looking at our statements, because they will charge $2 or $5 or $10 because it's more lucrative for them to do that. These scammers are smart. They know if they scam one person out of $5,000, that one person's going to notice that on their statement and say,
Yeah.
"Whoa, what's that?"
Yeah.
But if we look and we see $1 or $2, are we going to say, "I cannot remember what that is, but it must have been a fee for something"? And if they do that to 1 million people, they just made $1 million.
But
And
under
it's that simple.
$50, sometimes you don't have to sign for certain places.
Correct.
Well, that's another reason why they'll do it under 50. Sure,
Yeah,
absolutely. But people aren't looking at their statements thoroughly. We're looking and we're saying, yeah, it looks about average. It's like what happens every month. But we're not really looking at every single transaction.
I
And
look-
nowadays, that's what
I
we need
look
to
at
do.
every transaction.
I look at what comes out too.
Yeah,
every
it's
trans-
really, really important. It's
Yeah.
really important.
Did you have a question?
My husband had been married 10 years. He had a charge card when I married him. My name's never been on it, never asked to be on it. But last week I got new credit cards in his name and my name, and I never asked for one. I don't want it, so what do I do?
Wow.
Call the credit card company directly. It could have been some weird mix-up. Maybe he did it without
He
even.
didn't do it, he's,
Yeah.
Well, then I would say you have to call them directly and just say, "What's up? Why did I receive a card? I didn't ask for it.
I don't want it.
I don't want it." And they, they'll probably tell you to shred it, but to make sure to tell them to take your name off of the account if you don't want your name associated with it. So they'll probably tell you to shred the card that you have with your name on it, but they also need to remove your name
Yeah.
on their end. And what they'll probably end up doing is sending your husband a new card as well, because the number will probably change then. So both of the cards will probably need to be shredded, and then they'll send a new one. But that's really important too. It's a really great question to bring up. What do I do if it's a real business that is doing something that I don't want them to do? And we have more control, of course, when it comes to real businesses than when it comes to scammers. And if it is a real business that's contacting you and you don't want them to anymore, or a charity, we just need to contact them directly and say, look, I'm unhappy with the amount of correspondence that you're mailing me, or I'm unhappy with how often you call me, and I would like to donate, but I'm not as likely to if you continue to do what you're doing, which is kind of harassing, which it can feel like at times.
Mm-hmm.
We need to really take that initiative and contact these businesses and say, look, you need to stop, you need to take me off your list. And if they're a real business and they're legitimate and they're going to be professional and they want to stay in good standing within the business to consumer relationship, they're going to adhere to our requests. They're going to. But I don't know anyone that takes that initiative and calls and does it, because just as I was mentioning at the beginning of the program with the Federal Trade Commission, they tell you to report it and you know to, but even in that moment you think, oh, what is that one call that I ain't gonna do? Same thing goes for real businesses. Believe it or not, they'll listen if we push back.
Even with real businesses, my husband died 21 years ago, and AARP is still sending me stuff with his name on it, and I say he's deceased.
You've contacted them to tell them that? Yeah.
Yes, they still send it to me.
I would call again, and I would, whoever you speak to, say, I'd like to speak to your superior, speak to their superior, and sometimes it's just about getting that right person.
Oh my God.
If you would like, I'm happy to contact them. I have a few colleagues there.
Oh,
So
okay, yeah.
it happened to
Yeah.
my family as well. My father died 8 years ago, and we still get all kinds of information for him. But you just have to be really diligent and just keep calling and letting them know it's not right.
Yeah.
Well, I worked for a company that we did a newspaper mailing and stuff, so we had somebody do our mailing list, and they never took anybody off. They always had it until I took over, and
That's good.
but nobody wants to remove, they leave you on.
Well, once they have your information,
Yeah,
they don't want to have to, find new people. They can keep contacting the same and recycling. Yeah,
But
and they're
probably-
selling that information
Yeah.
too,
Well,
which
it's
is why
so
they're
much
not
for
getting
selling
rid of
But
it.
when they're looking for advertisers, they say we have all
This,
these people.
yeah.
Exactly.
Now, what about the unsubscribe on these emails? Does that,
Don't click on them.
okay, all right.
It's just not worth it, because if you click on it,
They
it's
know
telling
they've
that,
gotta-
oh, there's a real email address that someone's actually monitoring. You're just better off to just put it in the trash.
Yeah, because you can't be sure if it's a real email or not.
It could also be
Yeah.
malware that they want you to click on.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So you just
Exactly.
never know. It's the same thing with a phone. Press 9, be taken off of your list. Press 9 and we'll keep calling.
I would call if you have a lot of emails that are coming in from particular businesses that you want to unsubscribe from. I would find their phone number,
Yeah.
call the phone number and say, I want to be taken off of your email list, rather than click that unsubscribe, just in case it isn't really them. Just in case. It could be an off chance that it's a phishing email and it looks like it's coming from Comcast, but it's really not,
A lot of times you unsubscribe and they still keep sending it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Or spam it if you really want to tick them off.
Yeah.
Just keep spamming it, and then it'll
Right.
eventually
Just
not
go to
Spam
go
it?
into
Now, wait a minute, that's,
You can put
I
it-
can create spam?
Yeah. Oh, no.
And then it'll just keep bouncing back for them,
No, it just puts it into your spam box. So the next time they
Wow.
send you something, it'll just go right to the spam box.
Yeah.
Well, I've tried that, that doesn't work, there's good stuff
Doesn't
lining up
always
in that
work.
box.
There
There tends to be sometimes, every once in a while, yes.
Yeah, I
Well,
check
it-
my spam
It
box
tells me how many deleted
regularly.
message I've got, but I still gotta go look at the deleted messages
Yeah.
to make sure it didn't
That it
grab
wasn't
one
real,
that
yeah.
I really wanna see.
It's a little bit
so-
of a hassle for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any final questions?
I just have one. For instance, animal shelter. I keep getting, I've told them to take my name off, but I've told them 6 times.
Mhm.
What you know what I'm saying, how being diligent about it?
Yeah.
But it still keeps happening. Is there anything beyond that? Because I'll be honest with you, I used to work with them, and that used to be my job, is taking in donations and whatever. And they had this company that did the marketing, but I mean, I don't know the name of the company, and it was the marketing people.
Have you called the animal shelter directly?
Go ahead.
Okay, so, okay.
You're saying those were the 6 calls that you
So
made?
in
so,
other
okay.
words,
I
what
would
I'm
try
trying
the
to say
AG's
is,
office.
right, it's you can call the shelter till you're blue in the face, but if what you want is only good as the operator. you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I tell somebody, but then if they don't appropriately do what they're supposed to do once a month, give them a list too. So how do you get beyond that?
Do you know the company who does the
No,
marketing?
I don't know that.
You could actually just file a formal complaint with the Attorney General's Office of Massachusetts. If the animal shelter's in Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the AG's office in any state are very powerful, much more powerful than what we have.
Right.
Right.
But if you ever have a problem with a business or a company in any other state and they are not,
Oh, good point.
they're just giving you a hard time, you can file formal complaints with those Attorney General's offices in wherever the state is. So I would say this might be a time for a call to the Attorney General's office. I think
Okay.
the information's in
So
ours,
it's
I'm
on
pretty
there,
sure,
isn't
so
it?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
Even just sometimes I even just say it to whoever I'm calling. I'm going to have to report you to the Attorney General's office. And when you
Yes.
say that, all of a sudden, the last 10 calls, it was like, oh, okay, this time it's gonna work. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes
That's good,
that
I'm gonna
works.
try that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a formal complaint, you
Bit
can
more
go right
authority.
online and just fill it all out, or you can call their car department, either way, whatever makes you feel comfortable, but, if you ever have a company, a business that's being unfair, that's against the law, so you should
Right.
file a formal complaint against that company.
Yeah.
I think, especially during the holidays, when there are pop-up companies that come up, a pop-up at the mall or a pop-up here, do make sure to do your due diligence and check them out. Make sure they are really legitimate companies that have good reviews, or if, like, a lot of times I've noticed when I'm reading the news online, there's all those ads on the side that say, oh, that looks like look at those interesting shoes, and the company looks great and they're great advertising. I would highly suggest doing a review of those companies, because I was thinking about using one of the companies. I'm like, oh, look at those, I don't know, they had cute clothes and low prices. But then I did a Google search with a company and typed in the company name and reviews, horrendous reviews. Then I went to Amy's website, actually the Better Business Bureau, horrendous reviews. I thought, okay, never mind. It'll just save you a lot of heartache and irritation on the other side when you realize they send you terrible products, they don't send you products, you don't get your money back, or whatever the case may be, especially when things like that start really popping up late October, November, when people are thinking about holidays and things. 'Cause you just never know who's paying for those ads. Are they really good, legitimate companies that you really want to shop with? Did you have a
How
question?
truthful are the reviews?
It depends.
No, I was looking for products, I was gonna buy locally, I wasn't gonna order.
Sure.
But I checked the reviews, you're saying, gee, is this really this bad?
It depends on what website you're on.
Yeah?
Well,
You know,
yeah,
it
it
depends.
was the company's website, I guess, where, the reviews were coming in and not coming in good.
See, I look at it on the flip side. If there are 90 reviews and they're all horrible, and there's like that one review that's, oh my gosh, it was fabulous, which that makes me nervous. Why are there so many people
Right.
saying it was
Right,
horrendous
yeah.
as opposed to, and why
I
is
mean,
it only
I-
just one?
Got to the point where I wasn't trusting the reviews anymore, though I didn't buy the product anyhow, but,
Yeah.
I was just,
I would contact visit the Better
Better
Business Bureau
Business Bureau,
website and see what sort of reviews we have.
okay.
If there's verification that goes into the reviews that are posted on our website for sure, especially complaints. And like Robin said, it's all about the average. If there's a business that has 10,000 complaints against them, but they're a small corporation versus a big corporation that has 10,000 complaints filed against them, or something like that. You really have to take that into
Yeah.
consideration. How big is the company, and how are people speaking about them, positive or negative?
What is the actual value of the security freeze, and when would you do that? I know one time I think the bank did it for me.
Sure.
When I had lost my card.
Sure. So a security freeze, everybody once a year should go and look at your, you can go to annualcreditreport.com, and that's a super boring read, and look through, make sure everything that's listed on your credit is really you. Name and address is correct, date of birth, credit cards that are listed as closed or open, mortgages, all of that. Make sure all of that's set, and then freeze it. So what freezing means is it makes sure that you cannot open a new line of credit without unfreezing that account. So if I ever get a hold of your social security number and let's just say attach it to somebody else's name and try to open up a line of credit, a Visa, a MasterCard, or a mortgage, or go to college, anything, it can't be done because it's frozen. So I think I froze one, I have to do the other two. It took 24 hours to go into effect, and I think it's a 2-day process to thaw them or unfreeze them. But that way, it does keep you safer so that no one can get into your information and open up lines of credit.
So we should all do that? We should freeze our account?
That is a personal decision. With the amount of data breaches that are happening every single day, people picking up credit cards, just with a cell phone, you just never know. When there happens to be large data breaches, scammers will purchase for very low dollars hundreds of social security numbers. And you just never know if yours was going to be picked up. It's just one of those things that will help keep you a little bit safer. Some people don't want to do it, and I'm totally fine. Whatever. If that makes you feel good, I don't have a problem with that. It's just what your comfort level is.
Yeah.
But you
I
can't
think it
use
would
your
behoove us to look
credit
at the
card
pros
after
and
that, or
cons.
you have a couple.
You can't open a new credit card.
New
You can't go
credit
buy a
card.
new
All right.
car.
Right.
You have to call the credit card company, the bureaus, and say, I want to unfreeze. In 2 weeks, I'm going to go buy a new car. Fine. Then they'll check your credit when you want to buy the car.
Right, and then you
So-
can freeze it up again.
So what that means is that nobody can open up a new account in your name?
If it's frozen, no
Yes.
one can,
Okay,
including
so
yourself.
that's- Including yourself,
Yes.
Yeah.
that's the value, okay.
Exactly,
So
that's
the value also too is if you are say 65 and older and someone really ruins your credit, your time period of trying to fix that and
back.
is a very small period of time. And I look at it from my age demographic. I'm 46. I'd like to buy a house in the next 5 or 6 years. I need my credit to stay really, really good because I don't want to get screwed up and all of a sudden 5 years when I'm ready to buy a house, well, you can buy a trailer. I don't want to buy a trailer. I want to buy a house because that's all I can qualify for. Children under the age of 18, if you have grandchildren, they should be frozen as well. They're 52 times more likely to have their social security number breached and used and abused because they know that mom and dad are never going to check. Why would they do a credit check on little Susie who's 4? Because if little Susie was involved in, say, a data breach at her daycare center, and this happened in the Midwest, 10 kids had their social security numbers stolen. No one knew about it until one of the little girls turned 16 to go get her license. They ran her social security number. She almost got arrested because she had 4 DUIs associated with that line of credit. So it's just, it's awful. So if you have children, grandchildren, do freeze it. Look at
What is that site?
annualcreditreport.com.
It's right on the
yeah,
handout.
all of them, yeah, they're on both handouts. It's just, these are things that we can do to make ourselves safer. And the law is going to go through in Massachusetts this month, so you can do a free credit freeze for anybody of any age. At one point, there was talk of only 18 years and older, but then a lot of people complained, thankfully. So it is free for, I'm not sure what date it is, whether it's the next week or the following, but it's supposed to happen in September.
So you have to pay for it?
It's $5 right now,
Oh, okay.
which
But
is
it's gonna change.
nominal.
How much is the unfreeze?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. $2 or $3? I don't know. I haven't unfrozen yet. I have no idea. I'll have to look into it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know, but it will be free.
Yeah.
Sounds like it will be free.
What
It's
is
in
it?
Massachusetts, that's a state?
It's actually going to be national, but it's
will be.
going to affect this month in Massachusetts. So
What about
okay.
this LifeLock? Is that really, is it like,
we can't, say one thing about one company or another, whether who's better or not. I think that there are lots of different companies, credit monitoring companies that you can use. I would just do your due diligence. You can look on the Better Business site, Better Business Bureau's website, see what the reviews are. Attorney General's office, you can see reviews, see if there's any company reviews, any complaints. But I would do your due diligence with whatever app you're going to use and download, whatever company you're going to use, whatever credit monitoring company or a new credit card company, whatever you're going to be using. I just would push back and really do some reviews and see if it makes sense for you.
And know that there's information out there. I think sometimes we get stuck because we don't realize how much information can be found on particular businesses. And it's just about doing our own due diligence and contacting the BBB. And if for some reason we don't have the answer, we can always point you in the appropriate direction. Contacting Robin's office, maybe the Attorney General's office. There's always someone that has an answer. And if there isn't an answer to a particular question about a particular business, red flag should go waving. And then it's like, not worth it. If you can't find a lot of information about a particular company or organization, then I would, find one where you can find a lot of information, positive or negative, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If I can't find a lot of information, for me, I move on and I go to the next one. And for every one business, there's dozens of others that do the same exact thing. It's just about finding them. Well, thank you. Oh,
Yes.
Oh, I was just gonna ask
Sure.
about the contracting.
Oh, sure.
We were supposed to talk about, we got all carried away with fraud, contracting for home improvements.
Mhm. What was
So-
your question?
Well, you were gonna talk about how to make sure your contract is safe, I guess, to protect.
Oh, so you're a contractor. So by law, you're a contractor in the state of Massachusetts. If it's $1,000 or more for you, and that goes for handyman. People do handyman and then they're rebuilding a deck. Well, that's over $1,000. That contractor actually has to be registered through our office. You can go online to our site and check the registration and see if they are up to date. We did have some new glitches a couple of months ago, but I think it's really working better now. But if you're thinking about working with a contractor, a roofer, whatever that may be, do ask for reviews, get information about that. Go online and find and see with us, are they still registered? Are they up to date? Are there any complaints against this contractor? That will help keep you safe. Having written contract. We have lots of people who get very tripped up and they don't have a written contract at all. Well, we just do it on a handshake. It's not a handshake anymore. You really need to get it written down and know and keep in contact with your contractor as the project's going. On our website, we do have examples of how to write up a contract. You can easily just print it out and fill it out. It's just little things like this. You can look on the Better Business Bureau site and see if there's any complaints against that contractor as well. But the more information you get, the better off you are, especially with contractors. Even electricians, plumbers, make sure they have the license to work here in Massachusetts. Make sure the license is up to date. And you can go to the Division of Professional Licensure and look that up.
I don't know whose it
Because you
is.
don't want an electrician walking into your house and
Whose it is.
he's only licensed in New Hampshire. That's not good enough, that's not safe. But a lot of people just kind of go on, oh, well, my neighbor had a good response from him, or he did really great work it can't work, it doesn't work that way. Even if your neighbor had a good experience, this happened to my brother. He did a great work in the neighbor, and he walked off with $30,000 of my brother's cash and fled the country. So you gotta really, and he wasn't registered. So you just have to know who you're working with, especially with contracting. And unfortunately, I'm just speaking from my own experience. Sometimes there are some shady contractors out there who will take advantage of someone who might be older. My grandfather he didn't have dementia, but he was just getting older, and he replaced his slate roof 3 times
Right,
in
yeah.
10 years. Because a contractor walked by, your roof is looking a little, and he was 90. A slate roof should last you forever. Maybe 1 or 2 pieces needs to be repaired, but you just never know. And if you hear of someone who may be having some issues, pull them aside or call us and say, hey, can you help us with this? I mean, you just never know. And it's heartbreaking when you hear of things that happen. We had a woman who, late 70s, who the contractor ripped off her roof in January
away.
in New England, put some tarmac over it, and never came back. So here she was, older, no roof, in January. What do you do with that? I don't think there was a contract. It was just do your due diligence. All of this information is actually online as well too. It's tough. It is very tough.
And the other piece too that you're raising that's important is that often we'll have, what people will sort of say gypsy contractors
Yeah.
that will, cruise the neighborhoods and stop and say, oh, I could pave your driveway, I should
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tree work. It looks like you've got a tree that's gonna come down. And be very, very
You call
wary of
4
somebody that-
companies and
Yeah.
get quotes for that tree.
But anybody
Yeah.
that approaches you and
Mhm.
stops at, everybody leaves,
Yep.
let me give you my card. Well, anybody can make a business card.
Sure.
That doesn't mean that they're registered and that they're insured and bonded.
Mm-hmm.
But they are, people unfortunately, they're not
Right.
unscrupulous, and they're targeting, homes where it looks like there might be an older person living there.
Mhm.
The house needs to be painted. Well, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, people don't realize you have to have an HIC registration if you're gonna do outside painting.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, 'cause so one of my bosses was gonna get his house painted out, the exterior, and he knows you have to be registered. So he contacted 10 painting companies, only one was registered. And he said, well, funny you should not be registered, but if you wanna fill out this information, it is the law. But we got the rest of them registered, but some people don't know though. Some people are they just don't know. Fine, that's okay, and we'll give you the information. It's not expensive at all. And it's just, these are little steps to take just to keep a little bit safer.
Does the state have guidelines, like, I think the town of Georgetown does, if you pull a permit
Mhm.
for work to be done, which must be over 1,000, I don't know what the amount is.
Mhm.
I think Georgetown, or they used to require that your contract state that you pay 1/3 up front,
Yes,
1/3 when the materials are delivered, and 1/3 at the end. Does the state have
yes,
similar guidelines?
Yes.
Is it the same?
exactly the same.
Okay.
And you should not be pulling your own permit.
No,
That is
no.
your contractor. If
Right.
your contractor says that he can't do it, he's probably not registered.
He's not registered.
Right.
He's
And
having
he
you
should
do
probably
it.
have his construction supervisor license
Yeah.
if he's gonna be doing major, so those are things that you should be checking. So a little red flag should go up if they say, oh, why don't you pull the permit?
Yeah.
No,
I
no,
hear
why
you.
don't you?
Oh,
And
yeah, but-
that goes true for 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Do not put up 50 grand for a $100,000 project right up front. Create in your contract, set guidelines, set due dates. And obviously sometimes some dates will have to be moved around if something happens, the weather, who knows, it is New England. But some people just don't even go and look at the project. Oh, he's still working on it, Go and check your project. Keep in contact with your contractor, send them emails, that way you also are creating a paper trail if there's an issue at the end.
Well, you can put in your contract too, aside from a date of when something should be completed, where you'll pay them the next third, you can say what will be finished by then as well. So you can say this date and or this particular, the floor or the walls or something like that completed. As detailed as possible.
The only time the contractor can ask for more money up front is if they have to purchase something out of the ordinary to start the project. Then yes, they can, but don't be paying half, 3/4, because we do hear about that as
Yeah.
well.
Right.
So, did you have a question?
Yes, we had a roof put on,
Mm-hmm.
and the material was defective after 12 years. It's a 25 year. And
Their argument was it was improperly installed
installed.
in
They-
front of the guy that put it on.
And it was a company, the shingles were, and they offered us $700. But there was a class action suit against this company.
Okay.
Do you get into these class actions, or do you wait till it's after? We got jilts because,
Sure.
And
How
s-
long ago was this? Was it like this year?
no, it was like
No,
4 or 5 years
4 or 5
ago, we
years
ended
ago.
up putting on a metal roof because he wasn't gonna put an asphalt roof on that.
Sure. Yeah.
And we have a big house,
Sure.
and it cost a fortune and a half.
Yeah. So
It was actually only about $3,000 more than the asphalt roof would have been.
Yeah, sure. Roof cost us more than the house did 4 years ago. But the beginning roof should have lasted 25 years, and it lasted 12, and we knew
Right.
it was defective. Well, we heard that these particular shingles were defective, and they came around, they said, oh, you put it on wrong, we'll give you $500 or $700, and
Yeah.
are you involved in the class action?
no,
suit?
should
No.
you have gotten
Oh.
involved, or should you not?
Because class action suits usually, it's litigated so long
Right.
that all the billable hours and it's received go to billable hours, and there's nothing left for those that were class action.
Right.
You don't
So-
get your money back.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think I don't know, I would maybe hire.
It sounds as if you
legal
probably
help and then see what they say. It's not really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would seek legal help and see what they say. That's not really anything I'd be able to comment on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
I come in late, what are we talking about?
Well, we're just wrapping up a program.
We're just rounding, we've been talking about fraud, but we can hand you some information as well.
We're gonna leave you with
We'll
a
leave you with
handout.
our handout information. Did you have a question?
I was involved in a similar situation, it's only been 2 years. I put down on my outside deck a product, from Sherwin-Williams that's supposed to be the end-all for outdoor decks. Like, you never have to do it again, it makes your deck look new, comes in all kinds of colors. It's kind of, I don't know if it's a poly product or
sure.
what, and it wasn't cheap, and I had a licensed painter put it down, because I don't paint. And we did everything we were supposed to do. We cleaned it, we power washed it, we used their cleaning product before we put it on. And it's very thick going on, and we put 2 coats on, and it lasted barely a season. I started to see it peel. I took pictures, I went back, they did the same thing. You didn't put it on right. And I said, look, I didn't put this on, I used a painter, he's licensed, he works with the union painters in Boston. I said, it was not our fault. And so they were gonna come out and look at it, they did come look at it. He never got back to me, so winter came, I forgot about it. This next summer, I mean, it's horrible. It's, if I take my hose and hose it down, you can just peel off strips of it. So I went back with more pictures. There was a different person filling in for the manager.
Where did you buy this?
Sherwin-Williams up at
Oh, okay.
Westgate.
So
And
could
so
certainly file
when I
with the
showed him the
Attorney General.
pictures, he said, oh, I said, well, he gave me my money back.
Sure.
Oh,
He
good.
did give me
good.
my money
Okay.
back, but I'm left with a mess.
For the product, not for the contractor.
No, for the painting, right.
Yeah.
He gave me the money back for the paint. And so he said they were gonna come back out and they were gonna test it to see if there was something defective. Well, of course, they never came back. So now I'm
You-
left with this deck that
you
looks
could-
like, hell.
You
keep
could
pushing.
file a formal complaint with the Attorney
Yeah.
General's
Yeah,
office.
absolutely.
Send it, file it with the Attorney General's
Yes.
office.
Yeah,
All right.
Yep.
I would. That's what I would do.
Thank you so much for being here, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.